Hello everybody, my name is Zoe Rebekah. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Cup of Zoe. Cheers everyone. Whatever kind of drink you got, coffee, energy drink, alcohol, whatever you're drinking right now. For me, it's 9:03 in the morning, so I'm having an energy drink. But welcome back to my channel. Welcome back. My name is Zoe. I'm so grateful that you're here. And today I'm going to be doing a little reaction to the very spontaneously just released Taylor Swift interview, the New York Times Taylor Swift interview. They did like a poll for I can't read the full article because I don't have a New York Times subscription, but I can watch the half-an-hour video of Taylor Swift talking about songwriting. And they did like some sort of poll that was like the 30 greatest living songwriters, and one of them was Taylor, obviously. And so they interviewed her and she talked, I guess she's talking about songwriting. I saw one clip of this on Instagram and I was like, I don't want to watch anymore. I want to film my reaction. I don't know if I'm gonna make this a Patreon exclusive video or if I'm gonna just do it more unedited on Patreon and see if I can edit it more for YouTube for free. But make sure you subscribe to my Patreon. If you're coming from YouTube, then make sure you subscribe to my Patreon. But anyway, let's get into this video. I'm super excited to watch this. I watched like the first couple seconds because it kept like playing every time I wanted to like zoom in or minimize the screen, so it just kept like playing it. I was like, stop it. But yeah, I saw the first few seconds, but that's like, and then I saw that one clip on Instagram, but I tried not to watch anymore. So let's just watch this.
It's still such a mystery to me, even though I've been writing songs for so long.
Yeah.
And I've started songs and finished songs so many different ways. They've gone through so many journeys. They've happened quickly. They've happened over time. They've been inspired by my life, by mythology, by fables, by books, by movies, by characters, by warnings, lessons. And they never quite happen exactly the same way. And I still don't quite understand how it works.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I have this very
I feel
strong
like that about my
opinion
own
that when
writing.
you're young,
You feel things on such a intense and detailed level. There's an attention to detail when you are like 17 to 22 years old and you're longing, or you're reaching and grasping but never holding someone's attention or someone's love or someone's dedication, and you can't understand why. You spend all day thinking about it. You notice everything. You notice candle ash on the cuff of the shirt and the button, and it's everything that makes the mythology of those intense feelings that you have. And I've always tried to, like, without being a completely unhinged adult, keep that level of detail and intensity when it comes to trying to describe a feeling.
I totally feel like that. Like, obviously, I don't write songs too often. I have written some songs in my time as a musician. I do play the guitar, and I was heavily inspired to learn the guitar and then the piano by Taylor Swift. I probably never would have picked up a guitar if I didn't become such an intense Swiftie, you know what I mean? I definitely have been heavily influenced in my own poetry, writing of any format, and, prose. In my writing in general, I am a writer. If you didn't know, I'm in school for writing. I have a bachelor's degree in creative writing. I'm in grad school right now for creative writing. I'm a writer. I love writing, and I specifically love screenwriting. And the thing about screenwriting is that it's so visual, and it's almost completely visual. You can't really include internal thoughts unless you're doing like a voiceover narration. There's not really much room for internal dialogue, internal thoughts, stuff like that in screenwriting. And you have to be very specific and detailed, and in any kind of writing. But I can definitely understand that with songwriting. I feel like the best kinds of songwriting, which Taylor is so good at, is putting you in that place. You know what I mean? And I feel like people like Olivia Rodrigo are really good at that. Phoebe Bridgers, Lizzie McAlpine, Holly Humberstone. I feel like some of my favorites who write their own music, obviously, that's Joni Mitchell. They put you in a place in time, in a specific setting. They bring you there immediately. Sabrina Carpenter's good at it. And they describe that feeling, that emotion, the tone, the mood, the setting, and it all revolves around that. And it's so specific and detailed and concrete, and you can really put yourself into the narrator's shoes, and that's what I love so much about Taylor Swift. All right, rant over. The 30 greatest living songwriters. Okay, talk about her craft.
I started writing songs when I was 12. As soon as my love for singing and picking up an instrument happened, songwriting just spontaneously started becoming the entire cornerstone of my life.
Early
I think
influences.
the first songs
That I fell in love with was the type of songwriting that I think folk and country is really kind of known for. It's like that story time structure. Songs like Harper Valley PTA or Goodbye Earl by the Dixie Chicks, or like, any amazing Kenny Chesney song where, like, a hypothetical structure would be first verse, little girl, learns a lesson that in the chorus her mom teaches her about. And the little girl grows up and now she's a teenager and she realizes, oh my God, my mom was right about this. Now the second time you hear the hook, that same hook means something a little bit different because she's like grown up in her life. Then the bridge, maybe she goes on in her life. She has a little girl. She imparts that wisdom onto her. And then if you really
Mary
want to
song?
get me to cry,
Mentioned?
like bring back that same first line of the song and end the song with it. So that was the first thing that made me think it's got to be country music. That was the first type that I really fell in love with. But then lyricism, I was the most intensely impacted by emo music, right? Dashboard Confessional, Chris Carrabba, Fall Out Boy, Pete Wentz's lyrics, how they take a common phrase and then they just twist the knife of it, right? Like, I'm just a notch in your bedpost, but you're just a line in a song. Drop a heart, break a name, right? Like, it's drop a name, break a heart. But they switched it. And those are the kind of lyrics where I would read the lyrics to those songs, or the specificity of Hands Down by Dashboard Confessional, where I'd be reading those lyrics.
I could see her being into this.
Finish reading a line and just go,
I respect her so much for her
oh my
very
God.
broad range of
I got a
musical
publishing deal
taste.
when I was 14. I was signed by a guy named
That's why she's so good?
at Sony, and he was just
Writers
he just
read.
believed that I had a
Songwriters
perspective that
listen to other
mattered.
music.
And I actually asked him if he could please hold my songs from being pitched to other artists. I was like, just give me some time to try to get a record deal. I'm gonna try so hard. I could almost compare it to the Brill Building, that were like these small houses, these like cottages and bungalows. Now we have really tall buildings. Basically, you'd go there and there'd be 3 songwriters writing in this room, 3 songwriters in this room, 4 in this room, 2 in this room. And I would just go to school. Then my mom would drive me downtown 30 minutes and I would go and I'd have a songwriting session with someone that I'd never met before. But I really didn't want to come in unprepared. So I'd walk in with 4 to 5 nearly finished things, 2 half finished things, 10 hooks, because I just never wanted people to be like, yeah, there's this like little kid that thinks she can swan her way into
Music
Unfortunately,
row and
yeah,
just,
you gotta
like,
prove
write
yourself.
songs
with these hit songwriters. But I think one of my favorite things about the Nashville music scene, country music, and the storytelling where it was when I arrived there was almost this tradition of sort of breaking the fourth wall, making the song then a part of the song, or the writing of the song becomes a part of the song. And I did that in a song called Tim McGraw,
Yeah.
where
her
I'm
first song.
singing about
this kind of love lost and hoping that person thinks of me. And then in the bridge, it's revealed that I wrote this song and I hope he hears it. The song Our Song, which I still love so much. It's all about
Me
this
too, girl.
romance in this relationship. And then in the end, it says, I grabbed a pen and an old napkin
and I wrote down our song.
our
So
song.
I loved doing that. I still
kind of love doing that. The kind of just like, and it was me. Like,
I bet you think about me.
my favorite end plot twist, I think, that I've done in songwriting is the ending of The Last Great American Dynasty.
That's my favorite one.
It is just so much fun to like tell this story about
This
this
Love that
real
song.
woman
who lived in history and she defied the
social
Rebekah
norms
spelled my
and she
way. Thank
drove
you,
people
Rebekah
crazy,
Harkness.
and she had a
marvelous time ruining everything. And you talk about the house she lived in on the coast. And basically then in the end, you're like, she
The outfit is so tea.
moved away from Holiday House.
She
and
looks
sat
so good.
quietly
I
on
love
that
the
beach,
jewelry.
free of
I
women
love
with
the
madness, their men
outfit.
and bad habits, and then it was bought by me. And you're like, every time I get to that part when I would sing it on tour, I just like have to kind of like I wanted my grin to go from here to here, but that looks crazy. So it's like I had to like taper down my own
She's so
excitement
cute.
that
I love
hook
her.
happened. I learned you
People
can't
slept
ever
on
really
that
tell
song.
if other
people are gonna like it. But oftentimes when I love it to a certain degree, that kind of tends to match up with people. And it could be that it doesn't match up with the way people feel till six years later. I loved the Reputation album. I was like, you guys say what you want. I know what I did. I love it. Like, go with God. Sorry. Like, you can come around if you want. It's okay if you don't. And then, 6 or 7 years later, people are like, oh my God, like, ready for it. Like, people slept on that song. Are you ready for it?
I love Ready For It. It's one of my
when we were
favorites.
making that
on
song, I just
Reputation.
remember I wanted to head bang myself through a wall. I felt that when we wrote Ready For It. I felt that way during writing Getaway Car. I felt that way. I think the first time I felt like I don't care if people hate this because I love it so much was when I wrote the song Love Story when I was 17.
This is the
Sitting
clip
in
I
my
saw.
bedroom, mad at my parents because they wouldn't let me go on a date.
With a guy who was too old, so I shouldn't have been on a date with him anyway. And this is why you need to discipline your kids, because they might write songs.
I mean, this is why you should have. I'm just kidding.
When I wrote Speak Now, I was
Speak Now mentioned.
18 and 19. And I was
Coming from this big, massive moment that I had with an album called Fearless, and it had won Album of the Year at the
Grammys.
Grammys.
and
Album
it was
called
this
Fearless Girl.
big.
Don't
it
be
was
so
the first
humble.
time there was this
Big debate over whether I deserved to be there. There are always going to be like little debates. Do you know what I mean? But this was like headline news. I was like, these discussions can lead to a really bad place if I don't do something to counteract them and to prove that no, it wasn't my co-writers that did all this work. And yes, I am the author of this entire body of work that I was very proud of. I'd written so many songs alone, and I love collaboration. I love co-writers, but it's not something that I needed.
And I was going to get Employee of the Month, and that's on period.
It's when I started to trust myself as an editor, because a lot of what I'll do in a session, even now, and one of the reasons why Liz Rose and Jack Antonoff became like people that I loved to write with for albums and albums is because I'll have this stream of consciousness pouring out.
And they would be editors.
Liz would sit there with a notepad. But when you take that away, I just started, recording everything.
Right,
Yeah.
recording everything on a voice memo, because there will be times when I'm like kind of in a zone and I'm writing so fast that
These
there's
are
no chance
her
I'm gonna
words and
remember
her
what that melody
stories.
was that I did,
Sometimes she just
2
needs
minutes
the
ago
editor,
that I
like
thought was
any
cool for
writer.
the-
Verse. That was a really important album for me in terms of
But Speak Now is
in terms of
perfect
of
the way it is. She
becoming a
doesn't need any
writer that
co-writers.
knew I could trust my own intuition.
I have little phonetic things. I love alliterations. I love, two words that start with the same letter. Love that. I don't like to have a word end with the same letter that the next word starts with. For example, in the song, Our Song, it was supposed to be when you're on the phone and you talk real low. But I was like, I don't like the real low. So it's turned into when you talk real slow. Certain words
Oh,
just
that
like
makes
fly
sense.
for me. And
That kind
I
of makes
think
sense.
one of the reasons I like to
take either age-old cautionary sort of phrases or things that you've heard in books, films, kind of these classic lines, and then repurposing them, inverting
The
them.
fate
or like
of
redefining them in some way is
Ophelia.
because
I sort of love the combination of modern vernacular and sort of old world or classic timeless speak. So in the song The Fate of Ophelia, there's a lot of sort of modern terminology and speak and kind of common phrases.
from
Keep it
the way that we
100
talk
on the
now.
land, the
But there's
sea,
also like in the
the
bridge,
sky.
There's a line from Hamlet that I repurposed.
Locked inside my memory, and only you possess the key.
I really gravitate towards juxtaposition and polarity in a line, right? So, hey, what could you possibly get for the girl who has everything and nothing all at once? Our coming of age has come and gone. You take one word that's at the beginning of the phrase and then you take its opposite. Because ultimately, like, we are all filled with polarity, hypocrisy, these kind of battling
Never had the courage of my
features
conviction.
and factors.
Factors that make up our jagged personalities. I have my phone and I have this file where I'll just be like, I know I like that, or I know I like that word, or I know I like that question. And then when
Meet me behind the
I'll
mall.
go into a session, I don't
August.
have social
social media on my phone, like it looks like I'm just endlessly scrolling, but I'm scrolling through a words,
You don't have
the
social
words
media
in
on
my
your phone?
file. If we're in the middle of writing a song, I'm
Interesting.
searching.
searching for a perfect line that I thought of 4 years ago at 3 a.m. I think the words for me of a bridge, it just feels like
Oh, I love a good Taylor
We're
Swift
painting a
bridge.
picture.
we're setting a scene. We have this opportunity as a songwriter to tell an entire story, an entire movie, or a very detailed description of one scene in a movie, or a very nuanced dynamic between people, or a complicated emotion. And we have only so long to do this, I've written some really long songs in my life, but for the most part, they're between 3.5 and 4 minutes. You can start like painting the picture in the verse.
Yeah.
You can get to the heart of it at
But
the
I love her
chorus.
long
But
songs, I
then
can't lie. I love
the
Dear
bridge
John.
can be
And
where
I love All
you
Too Well
zoom
Time
back,
version.
you walk
20 feet back and you see what this entire painting was supposed to be. Like you've seen brushstrokes, you've seen the color tones.
But part of being a good writer
But the
is
bridge can be when you step
concision.
back and you feel
I'm going to
everything
pause
that
it. But part of being a good writer is being able to say what you need to say in a finite amount of words. You know what I mean? You don't want a whole lot of filler or over exposition, stuff like that. Especially in songwriting and poetry, where every single word is intentional. Every phrase, every word choice is intentional and works toward telling the larger narrative of that piece. So a really cool thing about a bridge in a song is that it's like you've been building up to that point and then this is like the climax. You know what I mean?
But the bridge can be when you step back and you feel everything that piece of art was supposed to make you feel.
That's just
Exactly.
how I feel about bridges.
I came up as a songwriter in Nashville where structure is a huge part of how you effectively tell a story, right? You go verse, chorus, second verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, maybe you repeat that first verse if you want to pull at some heartstrings, if it makes sense. Now that's something that I
Yeah,
absolutely
she does that
subscribe
sometimes.
to.
that idea that it's, structure is important. But I think that when you write enough songs, and at least in my case, the intuitive part of your songwriting brain can kind of create a new structure that's not as classically what you've been taught. Like Jack Antonoff is a collaborator of mine and one of my best friends. We established
Yes.
This thing that we love to do.
Jack Antonoff, best
and we
friend
call it
mentioned.
the rant bridge.
The rant
I
bridge,
could
yes.
point to examples like Out of the
Remember when you
Woods,
hit the
Is It Over
bridges
Now, Cruel Summer.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we love
These rant bridges where it's basically like stream of consciousness, endless pouring out of emotion.
I love those
intrusive
bridges.
thoughts.
Like blended with metaphor, with discussion, with shouting. Like you want this
Rant bridge to feel the most intense of
Shouting
what
bridge
that feeling
mission.
is that you're trying to
Sorry.
establish over the course of the song. And you want it to kind of be a crescendo.
Exactly, crescendo, or climax, if you will, in a piece of
We usually
writing.
Love those so much that we then bring them back. So we'll go, you know, verse, chorus, rant bridge, sometimes like a little post-coda to that rant bridge. Last chorus, bring the rant bridge
Like
back.
August.
Maybe with the chorus chords underneath it.
Try.
The mirror ball bridge,
This was
What is
Jack sending me a track during COVID.
and me immediately knowing that it needed to be about how I felt as a performer and an entertainer within this moment when entertainment and art has effectively shut down. I'm still gonna stand on this tightrope. I'm still up on the trapeze. I'm still gonna try to do tricks for you. But at the same time,
You know,
Keep you looking
being
at
a
me.
person
in
in
the public eye, I've really begun to realize that you are a mirror. Like, you are a mirror for your fans, for the media, for people on the internet, for just people who don't even really care about your music, but they know who you are. However they feel about themselves and their life will be projected onto how they perceive you.
Shining just for you.
A public person who makes art is a mirror ball. And that's part of why I've been able
to keep my wits about me through all this, because I know that. And I'm really kind of aware of that dynamic, but I'm still endlessly fascinated by people, by the human experience, by why people are the way they are, by
the ways that they feel emotion. I think that's what keeps us connected, even though you can make these kind of like shockingly vulnerable confessions within a song by being like, I've never been a natural.
all I do is try.
And you say that at first, and I remember writing that and being like, oh my God, this feels like, do you want to say this? And I'm like, actually, I feel like a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
That always overrides my discomfort with if a line
That's
feels
so
too true.
admirable.
because I don't really think that there's anything that's too true.
That's how I feel. This is why she's one of my biggest
was that
influences
this
as
was
a person.
Very emotional rant that I did in like a sound check. We were rehearsing for the Speak Now tour. I was very sad in a way that you're like 21 years old and you're just like excruciatingly just like you are. Sadness is you. You are sadness.
I
in a
felt like
break,
that.
I just started playing the same 4 chords over and over again. It's basically the same 4 chords over and over again for the whole song. And it just became this thing where I just started
What, all too well?
rambling, and this thing went on for a really, really long time. It was like more than 10 minutes that this rambling rant went on, and it wasn't cohesive and it wasn't really that structured, but it felt afterward like I think my mom or somebody went up to the sound guy and was like, did you by any chance record any of that? And he was like, yeah, I did. And I would have walked away from it if he didn't have a recording of it. So I went back and listened to it and I was like, oh, here's this 10-minute like basically catharsis.
It is basically the same 4
intense
chords over
emotion.
and over. Yeah.
Like there's some
Some really angry, scathing parts
but
that I
it's
was like,
so well written.
kind of gonna
The
have to make
freaking
this into a
lyricism.
song that
it's a little bit more palatable because I already felt so like raw putting that song out as detailed as it was.
Yeah.
So then it goes out into the world. It didn't make a lot of noise, that song, for the first 6 months to a year, but then the fans just did a thing that they've done a few times where this song just keeps bubbling up. They did
Like
this
with Cruel Summer.
too.
where they're just like, no, we like it. We don't care if a label wants to put it out. We love this one. So I ended up playing it on the Grammys.
Don't make me cry.
I made the mistake of kind of explaining how the song came to be in an interview. It ended up being a really fortuitous mistake that turned into being like,
Oh, I'm so
actually
glad that
might cry.
happened. But for
I'm
years,
sorry.
the fans were
I'm
like, give us the
trying not
10-minute
to.
version. Give us the 10-minute version.
and I was like going back through diaries and finding like little fragments of it. And I didn't have the like old.
She's been so offline for
Thing.
so long. It's so good to see
So
her
I was
talking
looking
about
through safes, trying to find the
this,
CD, but I had to
her
go back and
main
piece
thing.
together lyrics and stuff. But that was the most extensive restoration process I've ever done on a song. I don't think I'll ever experience anything like that again.
how songs begin.
There are so many different ways that a song
I knew she was going to say
begins.
that.
in my world. I'll take an example like the song Elizabeth Taylor. I'm riding in the car with Travis. I go on and explaining to Travis like why I love Elizabeth Taylor so much. She fought for artists' rights. She was exploited in so many ways, and yet she kept her humanity, she kept her humor, she kept her passion for life. And I was just going on and on. I'm like, her eyes were violet. Some people said they were blue, some people said they were violet. I think they were violet. And we arrive, we get home, he gets out of the car, and I'm just in my head, I'm like, this intrusive melody of like,
Elizabeth,
I cry my eyes violet, Elizabeth Taylor.
and I'm just like scrambling to open my record like app on my phone. But that's like one of those spontaneous places where it floats down like a cloud in front of you, and all you have to do is grab it. And the song transpires from there. It comes as if from nowhere. That's a really fun way that songs come about. That's the way it happens most of the time.
Yeah, you have to find inspiration in anything, in any kind of writing.
That
You have to find
a
inspiration
producer
from
that I
the
love to
world
work
around
with,
you.
like Aaron Dessner or Jack Antonoff, could make
the
an
people around
instrumental, send it to me, and immediately
The people that inspire you.
I'll write what's called a top line on top of it. That's the vocal melody and the lyrics. Another way of writing songs is that you're in the room with your collaborator and one of you starts playing something. Like, for example, like Jack starts playing this piano part and it turns into this song called New Year's Day. That piano part was just like enough to springboard the entire song. There's glitter on the floor
After the party.
Writing sessions is a way that I love to write because you're all in the room, everyone's bringing ideas, everyone's chiming in. I always apply the rule, may the best idea win. I don't care if it came from you, or me. If it's better, that's what goes in the song. And I do kind of like it when people challenge me on something.
Do you?
Because I never want to be in the room with creators who are afraid that if
I appreciate you
they
saying
have a
that, but is
better
that true?
idea,
Like they can't argue with me because it must be my idea that makes it through. I'm never gonna grow that way.
True.
Well, I think that, the 2010s was a time for women in the entertainment industry that like, we need, like, we'll talk about it later. Like we're all just still, we're all still limping away from that. And I think that conversations are much more healthy now around, there's a difference between art and like going and ranting on an Instagram live. Like there's a difference. This is a song, this takes craft, this takes skill, this takes expertise. But I also am really excited
that like I'm a massive
somber fan of his songwriting, and his lyrics are so intensely confessional. I don't like want another man's child to have the eyes of the girl I can't forget. Are you kidding me? Like
That is very-
having a male artist say stuff like that is really good for the cause of women to be able to say stuff. If there's any way we can make confessional songwriting a little bit more of something that isn't like people take that as sort of like you were being messy or whatever.
Sabrina,
you have
Olivia.
to be fair to
Everyone then are like, are rap beefs messy or are they confessional? Like we've got to just like, let's make it a music conversation rather than just like ganging up on the female artists. And I think the more
male artists.
that are messy or emotionally complex or confessional or upset, the happier I am. I can only speak to me, but
As
There
I've
it is.
grown up,
the intensity of the sort of, no pun intended, message in a bottle nature of my songwriting,
has shifted and changed into something else. It used to be like,
I can't tell a person how I feel, so I'll write it in this song. And that was really important for me at the time that it was important for me.
Right.
It's also, important when you're in your early 20s and there's someone you shouldn't talk to and you don't want to call them because they're bad for you and it's toxic, so you write it in the song and that's where it lives. Like almost as a method of like self-control or self-preservation or something. But for the folklore album and everything like that, it wasn't as a response to having a public life and the intrusions that come with that. It was really more of just wanting to challenge myself as a writer. I really
We all have to do as
always
writers.
just
thought it would be so amazing to write books. And it's so exciting to have the challenge of, could I get enough plot points in a 3.5 minute song to where people
Yes.
felt like they read something after
Yes, you can.
they heard it,
Because you
or
can do
just
any kind of
take you back to
songwriting.
that
Clearly.
bedtime story, kind of tell me a story. I want to be able to put my own image on these characters. And it was really amazing when it opened up my world. I don't think my songwriting has ever been the same after folklore. I have always had a little bit of that sort of character play in my songwriting since. And I hope it never goes anywhere because it's really fun.
Sounds fun.
You heard the rumors from Ines. You can't believe a word she says most times. This time it was true.
I kind of
So-
like being a
surviving the
narrator that's
industry.
not
The person I relate to. So the narrator in Clara Bow is either a studio, like a Hollywood studio person or a label executive who's sitting in my mind behind a desk and meeting with a brand new starlet who's just come to town. The exec says, you look like Clara Bow in this light. It's remarkable. You're so special, you're amazing, we're gonna make you just like her.
Right.
In my mind, that girl was Stevie Nicks, right? So Stevie Nicks sits down, they tell her she looks like Clara Bow, she's got those big moon eyes, and we're gonna make you just like her.
We
Don't
love Stevie
worry,
Nicks.
we're gonna
Put you through this machine and you'll be a god. The second verse says, you look like Stevie Nicks in this light, the hair and lips. So in my mind, that was me that sat down opposite that desk, right? I sit down at a record label and they're like, you look like Stevie Nicks, we'll make
Yeah,
you the
girl,
next
we
Stevie
know.
Nicks.
And
We know how
basically,
this song is
you learn
structured.
that like, you're in this machine,
And they're trying to make you into
But I like
a
the way
woman
she's
that they
explaining it.
just-
idealized and then discarded. Like the entertainment industry love bombs women, right?
Right.
We
Love you. We don't know who you are. Why are you even here? And so in the last verse, in my mind, it's a new artist that sits down across from a record label desk and they say, you look like Taylor Swift. In this light, we're loving it. You've got edge she never did. The future's bright, dazzling. And because that's also another thing that you get when you're a female in the music or the entertainment industry, in the movies,
Right.
whatever. It's like, oh, you're like this person that we like. They name a big name and they're like, oh, but you're gonna be so much better. It's gonna be so much
Yeah.
no, it's gonna be cooler. You're
Which is
so much better.
like to offset the comparison.
right.
On Red,
There was a song that I wrote alone in a hotel room when I was 22 years old called Nothing New. where I'm
I love that song so
It
much.
sounds
ridiculous, but at 22 years old, I felt completely washed up.
I felt like
Maybe the only thing that made me special was that I was this like teen phenom, whatever I was looked at as. So I wrote this song and it includes lines like
I felt
know,
like that
how
sometimes
can a
at a
person
very
know
smaller
everything at
scale
18
about
and
like
nothing at 22. Because
about how I was like, my channel kind of blew up when I was like 14 with my piercing videos, my nose piercing video, my cartilage piercing video. God damn. But my channel kind of blew up and I got a lot of subscribers, I got a lot of views, and then it kind of went down from there. And I don't get a whole lot of views now. I've done a little better lately, but it's taken me a really long time to revamp my channel, revitalize my channel, and grow my audience again. I've been very stagnant, and like I've been at such a plateau with my channel for so long, and I sometimes have felt like this, how what she's explaining on a much smaller scale with that, like I was this like not big, I was this like, you know, teenage YouTuber that had a couple of videos go viral and blew up a little bit, and I was like really excited about that at the time, and I couldn't wait to like continue to grow my following, and then it just plateaued when I became an adult. And you know what I mean, like I've definitely felt like this on a much smaller scale.
when I was 18,
I just relate to
album
what she's
come out,
explaining.
and
had my first international #1s, and everybody was like, "Oh, this writing, it's so true, it's so honest. She feels like she deserves to be here." And then there was this big upheaval of no, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. She sucks, actually. And it was like it really turned the tables on my perception of like love can be so quickly handed to you and then taken away, and it's this kind of strange thing with fame. And that was the first time I ever grappled with that. Somebody was like, "Oh, you're 22 years old, and you're saying are you tired of me? If you're not yet, are you going to get tired of me?" Because it's usually something that
you sing about.
I'm 23 now,
the entertainment
so
industry, I'll tell
I get
you.
it.
there's 10 years for every year you're in it, but it's fun. Songwriting is something that it's a very
We want your
Intimate,
art.
tiny little.
thing for me. I have a lot of things I like to do. I like to bake. I like to make art.
Yes.
I like to paint.
I like to sew. I like to write songs.
Yeah.
And
I try to keep it as like dear to me as those other things I just named. I have to know that like there's certain things that we have as a tradition between me and my fans. They love for an emotional song to be track 5. There's like special things
Track
like
5
that, but at the
mentioned.
same time, there's sort of so many of them now, which is great.
It's hard to keep
but
track
there's
of them all.
corners of my
Fan base who are going to take things to a really extreme place.
Right.
There's nothing I can do about that. There's people who are going to try to like do detective work, figure out the details. Who is that about? What is this? When it gets a little bit weird for me is when people act like it's sort of like a paternity test. Like this song's about that person, because I'm like, that dude didn't write the song I did. But that's part of it.
You
Right.
have to.
Hold tight to your perception of your art and your relationship with it, and then you just kind of have to like, there it goes.
Yeah.
Hope you like it. If you don't now, hope you
I
do
feel
in
like that
5
about my
years.
work.
And if you never do, then I was doing it for me anyway. Yeah, criticism
that
has
too.
been a huge
Fuel for me. It's been a huge jumping off point, like a creative writing prompt or something. There are so many songs in my career that would not exist, like Blank Space would not exist if I hadn't had people being like, here's a slideshow of all her boyfriends. Like,
And then
Antihero is a song that I'm so proud of still. Like, that song doesn't exist if I don't get criticized for every aspect of my personality that people, have a problem with or whatever.
People will just continue to pick her apart because she's the most successful female artist.
My favorite thing when I sit down with new artists or songwriters, I'm like, why are you reading your comments? Like, that's too much of it. Like, you're inundating yourself with too much criticism
Right.
that doesn't really have.
of focus. But I think a little bit of it, you gotta just be like, this is part of it. Like,
Right.
don't make this
Make you
Use
stop
criticism
writing
as
or
inspiration
make you
and
edit
fuel,
yourself
like she
or
said.
whatever.
if it's an interesting point to you to kind of respond to, then that's a gift for you to be able to write something. Maybe you wouldn't have written something that day. But don't don't go to the notes app and post it. Like, write about it. Make art about this. Don't respond to like trolls in your comments. That's not what we want from you. We want your art.
Aw, that was so good. All right, well, that's it for the Taylor Swift New York Times interview that came out today, and where she's talking about songwriting mostly. God fucking damn it, this car alarm. Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed watching this. As I said, Taylor's been very offline lately, and she hasn't been as out and about, and it's, she looks good, she looks great, and I loved hearing her talk about her craft and writing, and I am obviously a writer, so and she's one of my biggest inspirations and influences when it comes to writing, and just as a person, I just love her so much. I idolize her, as I should. She's great, and I love hearing her talk about songwriting. I will always take advantage of an opportunity to hear her talk about songwriting. But yeah, anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Share this video and my channel so those you think might be interested, and leave me comments down below. Comment other video suggestions in the comments, and make sure you guys have copies of both of my books, my memoir Battles on the Borderline and my poetry book and erotic anthology, My Psychology, and follow me on all my other social media. Everything is linked down below. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!